Hello, this is Pre-Calculus, and this lesson covers factoring quadratic expressions. Alright, so we covered some factoring of quadratic expressions last year in Algebra 2 and in Algebra 1. So we remember that when we're factoring this, first we're going to draw two parentheses, and we're going to put an x at the beginning of each of these. And we need a number that multiplies to 6 and adds to 5. Okay, so the factors of 6 would be 6 times 1 or 2 times 3. If we add 6 and 1, we're going to get 7. If we add 2 and 3, we're going to get 5. So it's going to be 2 and 3. And so we put a 2 in one and a 3 in the other. And everything's positive, so these are both plus. Now, if we rainbowed that back out, we should come up with what we started with. So let me use a different color here. So if I said x plus 2 times x plus 3, and I rainbow that, I'm going to get x times x is x squared. X times 3 would be 3x. 2 times x would be 2x. And 2 times 3 would be 6. And then if I add my like terms, my 3x and my 2x, I'm going to get x squared plus 5x plus 6. And that's what we started with. Okay, so it's basically the opposite of rainbowing. You're going backwards from that. All right, here's another one. So first we're going to draw our parentheses. Okay, and we get x in each box at the beginning of each here. Now we need a number that multiplies to 27, two numbers that multiply to 27 and add to negative 6. All right, that means that one of these is going to be negative and one is going to be positive, because if we do a negative times a negative, we would still get a positive. So we need a negative and a positive. Our factors of 27 would be 9 times 3 is 27, 27 times 1. I think that's it. 9 times 3 is 27. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So if we subtracted 9 minus 3, we would get 6. So that's what we're looking for. So we're going to have a 9 and a 3. But we need to end up with a negative 6. So the negative is going to go on the 9 and the positive is going to go on the 3. That way we end up with negative 6. So if we multiplied that back out, we're going to go x times x is x squared. X times 3 would be positive 3x. Negative 9 times x would be negative 9x. And 9 times 3 is negative 27. Now if we put our like terms together, negative 9, positive 3, I'm going to get x squared. 9 and 3 would be negative 6x minus 27. And that brings us back to what we started with. So your answer would be this part. Right, that's what you'd write for your answer. This one right here is a difference of two squares. So when you have a square number here and a square number here, it's going to be the same in both boxes. One's going to be a plus and one's going to be a minus. So the square root of x squared is x. Square root of 81 is 9. So 9 in both. And one's a positive and one's a negative. Now watch, if we multiply this back out, we're going to have x times x is x squared. X times negative 9 would be 9 minus 9x. 9 times x would be plus 9x. And then 9 times 9 is negative 81. And these two are just going to cancel each other out, those in the middle. If we have plus 9 and minus 9, right, those cancel each other. And we get x squared minus 81. So that is a difference of two squares. For those, you just have to recognize that that first one's a square, right, and the second one's a square. All right, so now moving on to something a little different. This is factoring when your coefficient of x squared is not 1. So on all the ones we've done before, the coefficient of x squared, that very first number, has been a 1. Here we have a 3 right there, so we have to use a different method. So the first step is we're going to multiply our very first number with our last number, okay? So our x squared coefficient with our constant. So 3 times negative 2. That would be negative 6, okay? Now we need to think of factors of negative 6 that are going to come up with 5, okay? So if we did, or factors of 6, so where I can get 5. If we did 6 times 1, if it was negative 6 and positive 1, we're going to get negative 5. It was positive 6 and, let's see, and we know that it has to be a positive and a negative because our last term is negative right there, so that means we need a positive and a negative. 6 times 1 is going to get us, if we add those, 6 times 1 would be 6, right? 6 minus 1 would be 5. We could also do 2 times 3 would be 6, and then 2 plus 3 is going to be 5, right? But it can't work because we need a negative 6, okay? That means one of these would have to be negative. And if one of them's negative, then it's not going to come up to 5. All right, so we know our numbers are 1 and 5. So now what do we do with the 1 and 5? So this is a little bit different. First, we're going to write it down the way it is, 3x squared. But when we get to the 5x right here, we're going to use 6 and 1, okay? So we're going to say plus 6x minus 1x, and then our minus 2. So what we did was we divided that into two factors, right? The factors of 3 times 2 would be 6, and then we find what we can use to add to get our 5 right here, and then we break that up into those factors. Now, we're going to separate this into 2 pieces. Okay, we're going to put parentheses around one and parentheses around the other. Then we're going to factor each of these pieces separately. So this one, I can pull 3x out of the whole thing. So 3x into 3x squared, I'm going to have an x left. And then 3x into 6, I'm going to have 2, because 3 times 2, right? So if I've got 6x and I pull 3x out of it, it would be 3x times 2, right? Okay, and then the next one, I'm going to be able to pull out negative 1 out of that. And so for my first part, I would have an x left. And for my other part, I would have a positive 2 left. Okay, so if I multiply this times negative 1, I'm going to get negative x minus 2. If I pull out the negative 1, it's x plus 2. Now, notice that this and this are the same. The ones in parentheses should be the same. So then all I have to do is rewrite it as 3x, there's that, minus 1, there's that. Okay, that makes our first one. And then our next one is going to be whatever we have here, which is x plus 2. And that's how you factor one that does not have a leading coefficient of 1. All right, let's do another one. All right, so first we're going to multiply our coefficient of x squared with our constant. So 4 times negative 9. Right, 4 times negative 9. 9 times 4 is 36. I've got negative 36. Now I need to find the factors of negative 36 that I can add up to get positive 9. Okay, so I could say 36 times 1. I know it's not that. 2 times 18. 18 minus 2 is not going to equal 9. I could say 3 times 12. Now, if I did 12 minus 3, right, I'm going to get 9. Okay, so that means that it's going to be negative 3 and positive 12. So now I'm going to rewrite down here 4x squared. Okay, I'm just taking this term and I'm dividing it into these two. Okay, 3 and 12. So positive 9 is the same thing as negative 3x plus 12x. and now I've got my minus 9. Okay, or I could rewrite it the other way around. I could say positive 12x and negative 3x. 12 minus 3 makes 9, so that adds to make that. All right, now I'm going to divide this into two pieces, here and here. Okay, right here I'm going to pull out my factors. So both of those have an x, and both are divisible by 4. So 4x is what I'm pulling out. If I pull 4x out of 4x squared, I'm going to be left with 1x. If I pull 4x out of 12x, I'm going to have positive 3, because 3 times 4 is 12. All right, this next one, I'm going to pull a negative 3. So negative 3 goes into negative 3x. One time, we're going to have the x left. Okay. And then over here, negative 3 goes into 3 times. 3 times 3 is 9. So if I multiply this, I would get negative 3x. And if I multiply there, I would get negative 9. See how I just did the opposite of that? I just factored that out. Okay, so now, easy peasy, this and this are the same. So I'm just going to take what's on the outside of these parentheses, 4x, and my minus 3. And I'm going to multiply that times my x plus 3. All right, we'll try one more example. Okay, this one I'm going to multiply 4 times negative 54. 4 times 4 is 16, carry the 1. 4 times 5 is 20, 21. So I've got negative 216. And I need two numbers that I can add together to make 15. So what are the factors of negative 216? Well, we could say, let's see, if we divided this by 2, that would be 108. There's nothing that I can add or subtract to make 15 with 108 times 2. Okay, what if I said 4 times 54? Can I add or subtract those to get 15? No. All right, what about, let's see, what if we did 216 divided by 9? Looks like it would be 6, 7, 8, 9. Yep. So 9 times 2 is 18. Give me 36. That'll be 24 times 9. Okay. 24 times 9. Can I add or can I subtract either of those numbers from each other and get 15? Well, if I did 24 minus 9, I'm going to get 15. Okay. So it's 24 minus 9. All right. So now I'm going to rewrite this top one. I'm going to say, oops, I don't need the parentheses yet. I'm going to say 4x squared. Now when I get to my 15x, I'm going to break that into my 24 minus 9. So plus 24x minus 9x minus 54. Okay, now I need to factor both of these. Okay, and this is actually a plus in between there. All right, so from this one, my 4 and my 24, I could pull 4, because they're both divisible by 4. And my x squared and my x, I could pull an x. Okay, let's see what I have left. First one, I just have an x left. How many 4s are in 24? Well, 6 times 4 is 24, so that would be plus 6. All right, now this next one, what can I pull out of that? Plus 6. Let's see. I could pull a 3. Oh, I could pull a 9. 9 will go into 9, and 9 will go into 54. And it would need to be a negative 9. Okay, so I have an x left. And then how many 9s are in 54? 9 times 6 is 54, so that would be plus 6. Notice, in parentheses, they're the same thing. All right, now I just have to rewrite this. So I'm going to have my 4x minus my 9 as my first one, and then x plus 6 as my next one. All right, so that is it for this lesson. That is how you factor quadratics with leading coefficients that are not